This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's number one show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks play tonight versus the Minnesota Timberwolves with a chance to go 13 games above 500. They're currently 42-30. I mean, they've secured a winning record for the season, even if they lost every single game down the stretch, which I doubt will happen. But the Knicks have a chance to, gain some more ground on teams, maybe catch up to a couple of teams with a win tonight. Steph, how you feeling right now about these Knicks?
Yeah. Shout out to you, Sam, in the chat. I feel really good. I was talking to you earlier when we was doing our predictions, maybe 500 plus or minus 5 or something like that. I don't think any of us thought 12, like you said, possibly 13 over 500. So I'm super excited about the team. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at the schedule down the stretch, I mean, we've gotten through the roughest part of our schedule.
Right.
When we looked at the second half, everyone looked at it and said, man, we have a tough schedule. But now, it seems like we've gotten through the toughest part of it, and here we are. I'm not going to say it's a light schedule, but with a decent schedule down the stretch of the season, and it's, I don't know how many, what people care about 50 wins, but it's starting to look more and more attainable.
Sam, if we get 50, 50 wins out of this season, oh man, yeah, it's definitely possible. I think we have to go 8-2. What we got, 41 or 42 wins right now?
We got 42 wins right now.
8-2 is definitely doable. The way we've been playing, the way RJ has been playing, as of late, it's definitely doable.
Right. And when you look at who the Knicks have coming up, I mean, you look at it and say, yeah, it's really doable, right? Because they have, they have some tough games. There's no doubt about it. I still think the Knicks will end up with 47, 48 wins. But they play Minnesota tonight. They play Miami on Wednesday, which is a winnable game for the Knicks. Then they play Orlando, then Houston, then Miami again. They play Cleveland, Washington, Indiana, New Orleans, Indiana, right? Cleveland might be the toughest team that they play.
Right. That's home or away?
The Cleveland game is away.
Yeah.
So, and when you start to get down the stretch, teams like Washington, Indiana, they may have thrown in the towel on the play-in at that point,
right?
And figured, hey, we're just gonna go ahead and, let the chips fall where they fall for the draft.
Right.
Of course, Miami's gonna continue to fight because they're right in the middle, in the midst of the play-in. So they're gonna continue to fight. Cleveland, of course, they're battling for position. They're trying to hold off the Knicks for that 5th seed,
right?
Or for the 4th seed, right? Because when you look at it now, the Knicks are 2.5 games behind Cleveland. Of course, if the Knicks win that game, they can do themselves a big favor. Then they'll need the Cleveland Cavaliers to drop a game or two, for the Knicks to catch up. But, Miami, they're 39-34. They're going to continue to battle. Indiana's in the 11th seed, 2.5 games behind Chicago. By the time the Knicks play Indiana, because that's closer towards the end of the season, they played Indiana twice within the last 3 games. Indiana could be done and
Right.
said, forget about it. You know what I
Right.
mean? The Pelicans, kind of in the same situation as Indiana. At that point, they could be done because they are currently, they're half a game behind the Lakers for that 10th seed. So who knows if they're battling for it, if they really want it or not. The
Right.
Wizards they're kind of in that same boat. Right now, they're 32 and 39, 12th seed in the Eastern Conference. 2.5 games behind Chicago. So when the Knicks get down to the end of that season, those teams could be, they might have thrown in the towel already.
Right.
So there's a
Playing
chance.
rookies, end of the bench guys to try to get a look at them for next season.
Right. Right. So there's definitely a chance. Looking at tonight's game, though, because they got to do it tonight, the Knicks seem to be coming in healthy. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Karl Anthony Towns, he's out for tonight. Anthony Edwards is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. All right, so their big three is questionable for tonight, which obviously gives the Knicks a better chance at winning the basketball game. But it's still going to be a battle with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
I think it's a winnable game, even if those guys do start. Obviously, play. But obviously, if they don't, it should be. I want to say it should be an easier win, but usually when guys don't play, the other guys step up
Right,
and really play hard.
right.
Just to for pride, but also to show that I'm a good player too here. So, um, I don't know if it's going to be an easy game, even though those guys are out. I think those other guys, Anderson, is that slow? That's not slow mo. Is that slow mo?
Kyle
Um,
Anderson? Yeah.
Anderson, Kyle Anderson,
Yeah,
yeah,
Kyle Anderson,
that,
yeah.
yeah, they'll be ready to play. But I still think the Knicks get this win.
Yeah. The Timberwolves are 35 and 37. They're ninth in the Western Conference as we speak. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10 games. I agree. I think it's still going to be a tough game. You know what I mean? They're still playing for that, for playing position. Honestly, they're still playing to get into that 6th seed because Dallas, they're only 36 and 35.
Right.
Right. So, any of these teams down here in the play-in, Dallas is 36 and 35. Golden State is 36 and 36. OKC is 35 and 36. Minnesota is 35 and 37. The Lakers are 35 and 37. Utah is 34 and 36. Any of these teams get hot, they can move up into that 6th seed.
Right.
Right. And secure themselves a playoff position. You know what I mean? So they're definitely battling, and it's going to be a fight tonight for the Knicks. I just don't know if they have the dogs to do it, though.
Right. Right. Exactly.
When you look at the projected starting lineups for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. And for the Timberwolves, if Anthony Edwards is out, if Rudy Gobert is out, you're looking at Mike Conley, Taurean Prince, Jaden McDaniels. Is it Jalen or Jaden? I'm not sure.
I'm not
Kyle
sure.
Anderson and
Check.
Nas Reed.
Mhm.
Right. I don't know if that's enough to beat the Knicks, and that is Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden.
Jaden McDaniels. I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat the Knicks. Right. I
No.
mean, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Nah, I was just saying it just isn't enough, in my opinion. Jaden McDaniels, he's talented. I think he scored 18 points their last game. Nas Reed scored 22 points their last game. He didn't start, but he scored 22 points off the bench. You got Mike Conley, who's a floor general. You know what I mean? Who's experienced in playing in these type of situations, but I still just don't think they have enough to compete with the Knicks.
I would agree.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout, but I'm expecting, especially if these guys are out. Now, if for some reason Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards both play, then it changes the game significantly, in my opinion. I still think the Knicks would win the game, but it changes the game. You know what I mean? For the Timberwolves, it hasn't worked out the way they thought it was going to work out with that big trade for Rudy Gobert. Now they got Mike Conley coming over from Utah. You know what I mean? But it hasn't worked out the way that they thought it was going to work out. And I mean, right now they're probably, I don't know, maybe they're hoping that they're going to get everyone back for the playoffs and they can make some noise in the playoffs. But they've been so up and down, players in and out. I don't think they'll have the chemistry to make that kind of push. You?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. And like you said, it's really close in that Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have everybody in there pushing in the same direction.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, guys in and out of the lineups. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
What do you think about the matchups in this game? You know, and I'm going to talk about defensive matchups first. You know, who guards who? If you're Tom Thibodeau, who do you have guarding the Timberwolves in specific players?
I think I think. Ooh, I see you made that switch, Barrett and
Barrett, yeah.
Barrett and Grimes.
Right.
Barrett has been a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're giving up a lot of inches with McDaniel.
You are, because he's like 6'9".
Yeah, you're giving up a lot of inches. And what about Prince? He's kind of tall
I
too,
think he's
no?
6'7". 6'6".
6'6"?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you could go either way.
And the reason why I put Grimes on McDaniels is because McDaniels really isn't a post-up guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? True. He plays on the perimeter. He's going to put the ball on the floor, try to penetrate. He plays that style of game. And so I think Grimes could, you know, even though he's 6'5", Grimes is 6'5". I think he can, you know, play up tight, be in his space. You know what I mean? Not allow him to get into his shot motion and those type of things and disrupt him a little bit. You know, I'm not worried about him posting up and shooting over top of Grimes. So that's why I thought he could still guard McDaniels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. And with those guys out, he's probably going to be their go-to player on offense.
Right. He'd be their go-to guy. I mean, I don't see anyone else, anybody else there that you're gonna give the ball to every time. Now, Naz Reid in their last game did have 22 points. You know, he had 22 coming off the bench because Rudy Gobert did play in the last game. You know, but I don't think you're depending on Naz Reid to give you 22 points. No. Right? It's gonna be McDaniels that they go to, and I would expect that Grimes would probably guard him. I'm sure Barrett would see some time on him as well. Right. Jalen Brunson and Mike Conley. Not worried about Mike Conley. You know, he doesn't have the kind of speed that a De'Aaron Fox has or any of those guys. You know, so I'm not worried about Jalen Brunson guarding Mike Conley. I think that's probably a good matchup anyway.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about Randall and Anderson. And even with Reed, between Mitchell Robinson and the way Hartenstein has been playing as of late, I'm not worried about Reed either.
Right. Exactly. You know, Randall and Anderson, the only thing I worry about with Anderson is just his style of play can maybe draw you to sleep, you know, put you to sleep a little bit, right? You know, put you to sleep and you think, oh, he's not going to do this. He's not going to do that. And then he turns around and does those things that you said he's not going to do. You know what I mean? That's my only concern with Anderson. You know what I mean? And the Knicks, well, Julius Randle facing off against Kyle Anderson. I doubt he's going to kill us, you know, and hopefully Julius Randle is just a little more focused anyway, you know, so he's on his game. I mean, I don't know. It's not a lot to talk about with this game because I feel like if these are the players that are going to be playing, the Knicks overmatch them, in my opinion.
Right.
Especially with the way, you know, Brunson and Randall and now RJ Barrett is playing. The Knicks just overmatch them, overpower them. And they should be able to get this win. I guess the thing for the Knicks is to not overlook them,
Right.
and that may be, that could end up being the toughest part of this game.
Yeah.
You
Because
know,
also think about it. Reed was coming off the bench. He's starting now, so their bench is weaker. When you think about our bench, with quickly now, Brunson is back. Quickly is back on the bench.
right?
Josh Hart has been playing well for us off the bench. Hartenstein has been playing
He's
well for us. So we
he's
even
been
have
playing
the
well, yeah.
bench support.
Right, exactly. We even got the bench support because when you look at their bench, I mean, for the season, their bench averages 35 points a game. But if you're taking Nas Reed off the bench, and obviously if those other guys aren't playing, well, let me go back to the starters for just a second. If Karl Anthony Towns isn't playing, that means Kyle Anderson is starting in the spot, another guy off the bench,
Right.
right? If Anthony Edwards isn't playing, that means Taurean Prince is starting in the spot, another guy off the bench. And if Rudy Gobert isn't playing, that means Nas Reed starting in the spot. So you're taking a lot of guys off that bench
Right.
so that they could start, right? So that 35 points a game doesn't even mean anything because everything is so different.
Mhm.
They still have Nikhil Alexander Walker. Then they got some guys you really haven't heard of: McLaughlin, Minot, Wendell Moore Jr. You know what I mean? That's if these guys start. So yeah, I mean the Knicks bench overpowers the Timberwolves bench tonight if these guys are indeed out. You know what I mean? And really, their bench wouldn't be any competition. So let me ask you this: if these guys are out, I know you said it's still going to be a tough game, but
Maybe.
is there
Might
that's what
wanna
I was going to
rethink
say?
that
Is there a
now.
world where you're like, this should be a blowout? If all those
Right.
guys are out, if Edwards and
Right.
Towns and Rudy Gobert
Right.
are out,
Right.
looking
Right.
at the lineups, are you like, this should be a blowout? The Knicks should,
Yeah.
Should be a double-digit win.
Yeah. I agree. I think those guys are gonna dig deep though, but I don't think the Knicks, they've had like a workman's like approach to each game. They made like the games in which they fall in behind. I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't shot well, not because they weren't ready or up, for the game. So you're absolutely right. They should make quick work. But I've said this before recently. I think I want to say it was that Charlotte game. And it was a dog fight all the way to the end, and the Knicks lost.
Right. See, that's what scares me. That's what scares me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
teams like this
yeah,
can sneak up on you. Would you say that this is a trap game?
yeah, yeah. It definitely can be. Miami's up next.
Mm,
42 wins. Brunson's back. RJ's been playing well. Sometimes it's just human nature to, I don't even know, rest, but sometimes it's hard to replicate the desperation of a
right.
team that's trying to get into the playoffs. They're down 2, 3 guys. They're desperate, and you're not. And as
Right.
much as you're aware of that, and I'm sure they're talking about that in the locker room, it's hard to match desperation. So
Yeah.
we'll
Because
see.
that's like a natural
Mhm.
I don't want to say feeling. I don't know. It's a natural thing that comes over you. Like I'm
Right,
desperate
right,
now. I have to win or whatever it is.
right,
And so you know, like the adrenaline picks up, the urgency picks up,
right,
and you can't replicate that. You know what I mean? You cannot replicate that urgency. That's um, the toughest thing to do. Just like you can't replicate in practice, you can't replicate gameplay.
right,
You know what I mean? You can try as much as you can, as much as you want, but you can't replicate it.
right,
And that is, that's one of the reasons why you see so many teams, better teams lose to teams like this because it's hard to replicate that urgency. And sometimes teams get to that point where they feel like, oh, we can turn it on whenever.
right.
Do you think this team feels like that? Against teams like this, do you think that they feel like, well, I could turn it on whenever I want to?
I don't think so. I just think with Tom Thibodeau, I think Tom Thibodeau, what the coaching staff is trying to get across to them, when you hear them speak, they talk about it one game at a time. Even when they were on the 9-game winning streak, the most
Right.
important game is the next game.
Right.
So, and I don't think that's just I was gonna say coach speak. I don't think that's just player speak. I think they really, really believe that. So, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I hope so. You know what I mean? And that's where the guys like Jalen Brunson, who has been in a lot of these. I don't want to say, well, for a few years at least with Dallas, has been in not a playoff race, but battling for a playoff seed.
Hmm.
And playoff positioning. Been on teams, good teams coming down the stretch of the season. You're going to make the playoffs. You're playing against a team like this who they might feel some urgency because of where they are in the play-in, or they
Hmm.
want to get, or they want to stay in the play-in. You know, I'm sure he's been in that situation. So he can speak it in words, but I think his play and what he does on the court is what people will and his teammates will recognize and say, okay, we've got to do that. That's what it is that we got to do. You know what I mean? Also, Josh Hart, I think helps keep the team from either looking ahead or just underestimating a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, I think we have the guys in the locker room to hold that kind of a feeling off. Now, the last time that the Knicks played the Timberwolves, they beat them 120-107
Nice.
very early in the season. All right, that was like November 7th. You're talking about the 11th game of
Mm.
the 10th or 11th game of the
Right.
season.
Right.
All right, super early in the season. In that game, Julius Randle had 31. RJ Barrett had 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Jalen Brunson had 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. Obi Toppin had 15 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. Back in those days, I mean, Obi played 25 minutes in that game.
Wow.
Yeah, that might have been his highest minute output of the season
Hmm.
because he hasn't played that. I don't think he's played that many minutes. He
I don't
probably
think
hasn't
so.
played that many minutes since.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been his highest output for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns scored 25 points and 13 rebounds. He also had 7 assists. Anthony Edwards had 16 points and 9 rebounds. D'Angelo Russell was on the team at that point. He had 14 points and 8 assists. Kyle Anderson had 9 points. Jaden McDaniels had 6 points and 2 rebounds. All right, so
Right.
the Knicks played this team almost fully healthy besides Rudy Gobert. Right? They were almost, and obviously it was early in the season. They were, I think they came into the game 5-5. Maybe the Knicks came into the game 4-5. And the Knicks ended 5-5, and Minnesota ended 5-6. Knicks scored 120 points. They shot 44% from the field. They shot 39.6% from three. They took 48 threes that game.
Wow.
That might have been the second most of the season.
Yeah.
I think the
We had a
most.
50 though.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna
The
say.
second. Yeah. Yeah.
Just a few games ago, we shot 50.
Yeah.
We didn't shoot it well, but we shot 50
Right.
threes.
Right.
What's your take on the Knicks and their 3-point shooting? We know what it was early in the season. They went through stretches where they're knocking it down. Like they're up and down, very up and down. But
Yeah.
what's your take on the number of threes that they've taken, at least recently? I think recently, over the last like 15 games, they've been up to like 38 or 39 threes a game.
A part of me wants to say I never thought we were a great shooting team. I think we're in the 20s percentage wise out of 30 teams. I think the Knicks philosophy is if we get up enough of them, we're gonna get an extra point on the ones we do make. It
Right,
seems like
right,
that's what they're because remember, we don't shoot well from the field, we don't shoot well from the free throw line. I mean, we're in the 20s, I think, in all three. So that's part of where we getting our points from, putting up enough of them, so that we're getting an extra point at least on the ones we do make. Sometimes, though, just my personal opinion, I'm not on the coaching staff, so I'm not sure. I'm sure they have it mapped out why they do what they do. Sometimes I feel like to take less of them.
Yeah,
Take less of them, get to the basket, try to get to the line. They do pretty good drawing fouls, getting to the line. Let's do more of that um, than keep chucking them up, especially when we're not shooting well.
right. And a big part of the Knicks uptick in 3-point shooting has been Julius Randle, too. Over the last 15 games, Randle's shooting like 10 threes a game. He's attempting 20 shots per game, and 10 of them are threes. Now he's had stretches where he's shooting it really well. The only thing that I would say with Julius Randle shooting those threes is, although he's shooting them, and I think he's shooting about 35% from the field, from the 3-point line this season, he's not hesitating on his shots. And he's just decisive about what he's going to shoot and when he's going to shoot it, which I think is making him a better player, because last season he was so indecisive about everything he was going to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, I think part of it was, he was hearing it from the fans. So he was probably in the back of his mind, if I shoot this shot, the fans are going to boo. You know what I mean? Or, so there was a lot of things going on, but he was so indecisive last year. When he wasn't hitting the three well, he was like, should I be shooting it or not? This year it's like, if I ain't shooting it well, oh well. If I'm open, I'm shooting it.
Right.
I'll decide when not to shoot it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think he's a better player for it, but there are times when, he's shooting some threes and I'm like, come on, you're not hitting them. We don't need you to take 5 or 6 threes if you're not hitting them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What's your thought about when he shoots them early in the clock? You okay with that?
Sometimes I think he takes some bad ones early in the shot clock when it's not needed. You know what I mean? If I guess it depends. Like, if he's really hitting, I don't mind it if he's shooting.
Right.
Like, you know how, he gets those first 2 quarters sometimes, and or at least the first quarter, and he's already got like 17 points or something like that. And he's like, well, let me test it out. Let me see where I'm at. I don't mind it.
Right.
But then there are some times, and actually this has been the Knicks overall, there are times when, Mitch gets an offensive rebound and he kicks it out, and Randall will shoot a 3. And I'm like, we didn't have to shoot that. We just got 14 more seconds on the clock. You wasn't even really open. We could have found something better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there are times like that where I think the decision is bad.
Yeah.
But and the team has been doing that a lot lately. You know what I mean? We get the kick out and we automatically shoot up a 3. And I'm like, well, I don't even have to shoot that 3. We could find a better shot. Why are we shooting that? That does frustrate me.
Yeah. The Clipper game. I think we got like 4 or 5 offensive rebounds in a row. Each time we got it, we passed it out for a 3.
Yeah. I think the Clipper game is where we shot 53s and made like 20% or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, I guess the only thing I would say is, is the coaching staff preaching to them, just shoot the shot that you feel. Which is, I mean, I get it, but it's hard. It's hard if you're not shooting, if you're not taking good shots, and if you're not shooting the ball well that night.
Right.
You know what I mean? See, I'm all for, okay, if you're shooting the ball well, play however you play. But if you're not shooting it well, I guess we have to look at the game. The Knicks haven't been doing well in transition points this season.
Right.
Well, in the beginning of the season, it seemed like they were.
They were.
Now they slowed down. Every night I'm looking at this 8, 10, maybe 12 transition points, fast break points.
Right.
So I'm like, if you're not shooting the ball well, let's slow it down and get us a shot. You know what I'm saying? Find us a good shot. And then if we start, they start flowing a little bit, then let's open it up. You know what I mean? But I like to slow it down, find something good.
Right.
and then start and then
Yeah.
start opening back up if
Right.
that's what it takes. But
Right.
I guess we can't argue. I can't argue with them because they're 12 games above 500. So it's hard to
Right.
argue with it. They could be 13 games above 500 tonight. You know what I mean? But the offense overall, do you have issues with the offense overall? I know Josh talks a lot about
Hmm.
them playing one-on-one basketball. You know, they only average, you see it on the screen, they average 22 assists per game. That's towards the bottom of the league.
Hmm.
Do you have an issue with the offense? I know throughout the season, you were kind of like, hey, however they're getting it done, I'm cool with it. But do you have an
Right.
issue with the offense? And do you think about how this offense is going to work? What do you think about how this offense is going to work
I do think about it
going
in the
into the
playoffs.
playoffs? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're playing the best offense for this particular complement of players, right? We got two players who are very good. Um, Sorry about that. Very good ISO players. So, and you're playing your offense so that the ball is in their hands most of the time. So I think we're playing the right offense. As far as ball movement is concerned, I don't think the offense predicts the ball movement. And I've said this before. You can have a motion offense where the ball stops. You can have a pick and roll offense or ISO offense where the ball moves. And we've seen that with the Knicks, depending on how willing Randall and Brunson are to pass the ball and how well they're reading the defense, right? All of that being said, I do have concerns going into the playoffs because of our lack of perimeter shooting.
Mm.
I think any team worth their salt, and we're going to be going up against some salty teams, are going to do their
Right.
best to take the ball out of Julius Randle and Brunson's hands, whether that's a double team, whether they're blitzing, whatever they're doing. And my concern with the lack of perimeter shooting is one, they may not have the space they need because we don't have the perimeter shooting. And number two, who's going to make them pay when they take away Randall and Brunson,
Right.
right? Part of it is not having perimeter shooting, and part of it is, this is quickly second time in the playoffs. He's made some big steps this season. Will he do the same thing in the playoffs? RJ Barrett has been up and down this season. Will he come through for us in the playoffs? Because if those guys do, they can't load up on um, Barrett and on Brunson and Randall. So to answer your overall question, I do have concerns, but it's not with Randall or Brunson. It's who's going to step up when they take away the option. And the last thing I want to say about varying up our offense, I'm all for it. If the Knicks want to add, I don't know, picking more pick and rolls for Obi Toppin when he's in the game, if they want to add more pick and rolls for Mitch when he's in the game, if they want to run action on the weak side, I'm all for that. As long as at the end of the night, Brunson and Randall gets the most shots,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But Sim, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't care what offense you run. I don't care what you add to it. I don't care what you do. It's going to be scouted.
Mm.
They're going to take away that first option, and you're going to have to be able to execute the second and third option on whatever play you do.
Right.
And that is dependent, whether we can execute it or not, is going to depend on those other players knocking down the shots that they get off of the first option being shut down.
Exactly.
So you could do whatever you want with the offense. I just believe that it's not the offense. You can get a little edge here and there on the offense, but it's the execution of the offense and having the players who can execute the second and third. If you get a really
Yeah.
good team, fourth option.
Right. Right. I mean, you look at the Denver Nuggets. The Knicks played the Denver Nuggets the other night. A very good offensive team, right? Considered to be a good offensive team with a lot of ball movement. They average 29 assists per game, and all of those things.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't successful against the Knicks. You know what I mean? Each team has their own style of play, and you got to play to the style that best fits your team. And I agree, those second and third and fourth options, they got to be able to step up and knock down shots. When they get open looks from the 3-point line or whatever it is, they got to knock those shots down. I think most offenses are designed to do the same thing, right? Get inside and kick it out, right? Draw the defense, kick it out to an open shooter. However that happens, whether that be a cut to the basket or you have a player that's strong enough to post and draw the defense, or players that are really, really quick and they can penetrate down the lane. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Let's get inside and then let's kick it out to shooters, however that is. You have a few offenses designed to do something different, maybe designed to, shoot the three and create as much space possible from the 3-point line, or just run.
Right.
So you'll see different actions. You got to have players that can execute those actions. So, if we're talking about cutting off the ball and things like that, do we have the players that can cut effectively? Do we have the players that's going to convert if they do get it open, through the cut? If they, cut through the lane, are they going to convert it? We can go up and down all day about whether or not we have those players. I still agree with you. Your second and third options, first, second, and third options sometimes are going to be shut down, especially when you're in the playoffs. Right? Teams are seeing you every single night, so they know exactly what it is that you're doing. And now your other players got to step up and be able to knock down the open shots, because when they shut down what you're doing, that's when those open shots become available from the other players. You guys got to be ready to knock them down. You know what I'm saying? If not, then you won't win. And I think it all comes down to that,
No doubt
making
about it.
shots. Making
Yeah.
shots.
Think about Dallas, Sim. They went to the Western Conference Finals. They weren't a good 3-point shooting team, heavy ISO team. They got to the Western Conference Finals because in the playoffs, those other guys started hitting shots.
Right.
Then when they started hitting shots, teams had to pick their poison. We're going
Right.
to load up on Luka, but these guys are hitting shots. All right, we're going to stay at home with them. Now Luka can rock.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what the Knicks get, that type of shooting, and it doesn't have to be the same person. It could be different guys on different nights. If they get that type of team shooting, the Knicks are going to be fine.
Yeah.
Off of those two guys.
Yeah.
If they don't, they not. And what's going to happen, Sim, if we lose in the first round, and I hope we don't, now here we go with the Brunson and Randall are not good enough, and nobody is going to look at the fact that the rest of the team didn't do what they needed to do to take the pressure off of those guys so they can have the room to operate.
Right. And that first round is going to be crazy. I'm actually
Crazy.
thinking about driving out to Cleveland for a game. I've already started pricing out tickets. Already started pricing those tickets out. Do you think? I got into a lot of arguments with people early last season, like before the season even started, about Julius Randle being an elite ISO scorer, right? And I had to
Remember that.
quell my argument a little bit because Julius Randle wasn't playing good. Do you think Randle and Brunson, do you think they are elite isolation scorers in the NBA?
I think they are. And this is why I'm concerned, Sam. If they weren't elite, they wouldn't command the double team. If you're gonna play Brunson straight up in the playoffs, we good money. Unless that they decide, you know what, we're gonna give them 30 points each and we're gonna shut down everybody else. They could decide that. But if Brunson one-on-one, I don't care who it is, he's getting his shot off. Randall one-on-one, he's getting his shot off. Right? You're gonna have to double team those guys. Why? Because now I don't know if there's an elite metric, because somebody might come out and be like, oh, there's an elite metric and they not there yet. But from the eye test, those guys are elite ISO players that demand a double team.
Yeah.
And if they get it, we need these other guys. See, if we were built right, Sim, we would be happy with the double team because
Mm-hmm.
we know we have guys that can knock it down.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, when Julius Randle has the ball one-on-one, it's hard for me to think of a player that's staying in front of him and is able to stop him from scoring. You know what I mean? I mean, you're gonna have your nights when he struggles,
Right,
and that's every player around the league. They have their nights when they struggle. But it's
right,
hard to see anyone, especially when Randall gets going downhill.
right,
It's nobody that I can see can really stay in front of him and just shut him down and stop him from scoring. You know what I mean? And then now the way he's able to get to the line by utilizing that little rip through move and his pull up,
mhm,
he's getting to the line anytime, almost anytime he wants to with that play. You know what I
yep,
mean? And then Brunson with his footwork, ability to get inside, even though he doesn't have crazy speed, he has the
right.
ability to get inside, use his footwork, use fakes to
And the fadeaway.
and the fade
I
away.
mean,
You know
that
what I mean?
fadeaway is like he
Yeah,
all the way back.
yeah. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I mean, no one is stopping it. In the playoffs last season with Dallas with Brunson, man, he was killing it in the playoffs. We were all watching like, well, every game it was like, add a couple more million onto that contract, add a couple
right,
more million onto that contract. You know what I mean? And they weren't, it was hard for them to stop him in the playoffs when Luka wasn't there. You know what I mean? So
right.
I do think the Knicks have two pretty elite ISO scorers. They may not be, you know, the upper echelon of the elite, like with the
Right,
Giannis and those
right,
guys.
right,
But
right.
I think I think they're in the elite category, man, with being able to score the basketball. Um, Now, can RJ Barrett knock down some open shots, which he has been. I mean,
Mhm.
he's been shooting the ball well lately, and the Knicks will need him to continue to shoot like this if they're gonna make some noise in the playoffs.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? But it's got to start tonight. They play the Timberwolves tonight. The Timberwolves are hampered with injuries, so well, at least a lot of guys questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Anthony Edwards is questionable. Karl Anthony Towns is out. The Knicks seem to be fully healthy for tonight's game. Of course, we know Jalen Brunson is coming off of an ankle injury that he suffered a few games ago. Came back against Denver, had a killer first quarter. You know what I mean? Steph, are you concerned about his ankle at all? Did you see anything in the last game that made you say, maybe he's not fully? I don't think he's fully healthy anyway. Takes a while
Right,
for a sprained ankle to heal.
right.
But, are you concerned about his health at all?
He didn't have he took a lot of shots in that first quarter, first half, not so much in the second. So which made me think, was it the foot or was it just stamina, from being out, for so long? Now, when Rebecca Hollow asked him after the game, he said he felt great. But if he didn't, I don't know if he would have if he would have told her
Right,
then
right,
anyway. I think tonight is gonna tell the story. Like how does he look tonight? Did he have a setback? You know, um, the day after or even during the game, but
right,
didn't show up until the next night.
right,
But I'm a little concerned, Sam, because I don't think he's 100. Um, I don't think anybody is, but wherever he was, I think he's probably a little below that. And Brunson is operating on the slimmest of physical margins. You know what I mean?
right.
Like when he gets his shot off, he's just getting the shot off. So if he got a toe or ankle or anything that's going to slow him down, yeah, that's a concern. He's not going to be as crisp. He's not going to be able to get to his spots as easily. He's not going to
Right,
be able to get his shots off as easy. So I'm
right,
concerned. Yeah,
right, right, right. What was encouraging to me is when he went out, was it the Clippers game? Whatever game it
Sacramento,
was.
I believe.
Sacramento. When he, played in the first half, when he went to the locker room, he was walking under his own power. Didn't even look like he was limping. You know what I mean? So maybe it was just hurting a little bit too much, and he was like, I don't want to chance it. You know, it needs a little bit more rest. So I was encouraged by that. Obviously, you take a week off. You know, that's all it takes for you to get a little bit out of shape, right? You take a week off, you're going to be a little bit out of shape. I think you're right. Tonight, we'll see, where he is. The biggest thing, and Brunson already doesn't have blazing speed.
Right.
So if he's having trouble pushing off with the speed that he does have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now he's going to be that much more slower. Getting to his spots. And then, like, players like, say, De'Aaron Fox, right? They get that first step and they get to the basket, and then they're launching into the air.
Right.
Brunson, he gets in, and then he's got to fake and spin, right? So he's putting more stress on those ankles with the way that he plays and the way that he has to use his craftiness to score the basketball. So that's already a little bit, he's just putting more stress on his ankles. So, yeah, the Knicks need those ankles to be strong. He needs his ankles to be strong. The good thing about Brunson is, like, he's built strong.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of injuries with Jalen Brunson, just going forward. So hopefully he's good, because if the Knicks are without Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, that's going to be tough.
That's going to be tough.
I love everything that Quickly does when Brunson's not playing, but that'll be a tough one.
That would be a tough one. And I love everything about Julius Randle. And when down the stretch, I want the ball in those two guys' hands, Randle and Brunson.
Right.
But ever so often, Randle can give you a hiccup. Ever so often, he'll make a decision in the crunch time that's not great, and that's fine. But you want to be able to, on the next play, all right, we're gonna go to Brunson this time.
Right.
And if he's not there, if Randle has a hiccup, who you going to the next play? Back to Randle.
Right. Right. And Randle will have those hiccups, boy.
Like last night, he just threw it out of bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, Saturday, Denver Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. He threw it across the court. I think maybe he thought Quickly was going to be there. Either Quickly or Grimes was going to be there. But see, that's when those double teams come, this is what still frustrates me with Randle. When you see that double team coming, or, you finally recognize that the double team is there, he's always looking for the home run.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So he's looking for that cross-court pass that's going to lead to an open shot. And, okay, I get it. I understand it. But sometimes just take the easy pass to get out of trouble, because, he's got a double team on him, and he's, looks like he's falling over. Sometimes he gets a travel called because of it. Sometimes you just got to take the easy pass and let the ball swing around to the open player. And if it's not there, then you can get something else. But if you make that decision quicker, you still have time on the shot clock to get something else. Or if you swing it fast enough and now players are running at that guy, Quentin Grimes can go off the dribble. He's proven it. You know what I'm saying? Guys are running at him. He can get to the basket off the dribble. But he holds it for so long trying to find the home run pass. And, it's unnecessary, I think. I think he, there are times when you have that home run pass, and there are times when you got to get out of your hands quicker.
Yeah. Tell Sam, I said the same thing yesterday. I said the same thing. Why are you holding up? And I get what you're doing. You holding it. Somebody is open. You waiting to see who that guy is so that you can get. But why do you have to?
Right.
If you swing it to the guy right next to you, they could swing it around to that same guy.
Exactly.
He could get the same shot.
Right. And what happens, sometimes it's hard. A good defensive team is going to be hard for him to see who's really open, because guys are now playing the passing lanes because they know he's trapped. So now you can't really see who's open. You know what I mean? And, I wish he would just get that ball out of his hands quicker still. You know what I mean? And find the easy pass, make the easy play.
Right.
And then sometimes he's passing to a spot blindly. That's what he did on that play versus Denver. I used to yell at my girls about it all the time. I had this one, she's a freshman. She would catch the ball at the top and just swing it to the wing without even looking to see if that player's there. Now, I know she expected that person to be there because that was maybe part of our set. That person was
Right.
supposed to come out there or whatever it is. But you got to take that look first to see if they're actually there instead of just moving it blindly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what he did on that play. He expected Grimes or whoever to be in that spot. They didn't move to that spot, and he just threw it there,
Right.
and it wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the coaching staff could point that out to him, though.
Yeah. I hope so. You know what I mean? I hope that, I would think that,
They
they probably have pointed it out to him. Oh, habits are hard to break sometimes, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you got to really put your mind to breaking those habits.
Right.
But we'll see. Tonight, again, the Knicks take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I expect that the Knicks are going to get a win tonight. But every time I expect it, who knows what happens?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I hate saying those words. John Levy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. He says, salute to you, Sim, and all hail the queen. We appreciate your support. Definitely. Quiet Money said, Sim, as long as he's honest with the training staff, talking about Brunson, about his ankle, about how his ankle feels, I'm fine going forward because as long as we don't overuse him, we're good. Well, here's the thing. If he's saying he's good and the training staff is saying he's good, Tom Thibodeau's putting him out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's going to use him as if he's 100% healthy.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And then Ramel said, Tibbs ain't thinking about resting anyone until the playoffs are clinched. I agree. Tibbs is going to play these guys.
7 through 10?
Say that
You
again?
seen 7 through 10 in the Eastern Conference? That's shark infested waters. We
Right.
have to stay in the
That's what
top
I'm saying.
6.
Exactly. Because that's 7. Yeah. Because 7 through 10, yeah, you don't want to be down there. I don't want to. I remember saying early in the season, I don't want to see Toronto in the play-in.
Nope.
Right? Because I can't stand playing the Raptors. Don't want to see them in the play-in. I don't want to see any of these teams in the play-in. Atlanta, I don't like our matchups versus them. Miami, you know what kind of battle that would be. So yeah, the Knicks gotta lock it up.
Yeah.
They gotta lock it up. And I don't know, what is the win total? I guess we gotta wait. We gotta wait for a couple of games. And then we can really start counting down the number of wins that the Knicks would need to lock up that 5th seed. Right now they're 2.5 games above Brooklyn. 10 games left for the Knicks. 11 games left for the Brooklyn Nets. That could easily swing towards Brooklyn, or the Knicks could lock up that 4th seed too, right? That, if Cleveland loses some games and the Knicks stay hot, they could move up into that 4th seed. So, that's still up in the air. Now, to lock up just the playoffs, the Knicks are just 3.5 games. Yeah, 3.5 games above Miami. So there's still a while to go before they lock up the playoffs. If the Knicks hit like a 5-game win streak, they might lock it up within the next week or something like that. They're on a 3-game win streak. So if they win, say, 5 more straight, they might lock it up. But there's still a little time left before they can lock it up. Yeah, so I would expect that Tom Thibodeau is going to play those guys until it's locked up. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you think if we're locked up a playoff spot and we could still go to 50, do you think Tibbs is just going to be like, look, we locked in the playoff spot. I could start resting guys. Or you think he's going for 50?
I think it depends on if that 4th seed is still available too.
Yeah.
Right. So they might lock up the playoff spot, but if you can still get that 4th seed, if there's a chance, I think he takes the chance. Because when do the playoffs start?
April 15th. is the first game of the playoffs. The play-in starts on the 11th, I believe, but
Okay.
the playoff starts on the 15th.
So if the Knicks make the playoffs, they get about a week's rest.
Yeah,
Right.
because our last game is what, the 9th?
So the
Something
Knicks,
like that. Yeah, you could rest then.
right? That's something that's really good about that
Rest.
play-in. Yeah, the last game is on the 9th versus the Indiana Pacers. So that's something that's really good about the play-in. It gives you that week before the playoffs start to just rest.
Yeah,
So
and don't forget. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, son.
yeah, so you play your guys all the way down the stretch, get the playoff spot, then you can rest.
Yeah. Remember, we had the 3 games between before we played Denver. Excuse me, 3 days off before we played Denver, and then when we play Thursday, we get another 3 games off before we play Monday.
Mm,
So you're going to
yeah,
get those 2 3-day stretches and a week off.
right.
There's going to be enough time for them
Yeah,
to rest.
exactly. Yeah, you got to rock out all the way to the end. I mean, I guess if you're plugged into the 5th seed, you know what I mean, or plugged into the 4th seed, and there's no, you can't go anyplace else, then maybe you consider giving someone some time off. I don't know if Tibbs does that though.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like Tibbs is like, we're gonna play this thing out all the way through. I don't want to lose any momentum. I don't want to, lose any kind of, any structure that we've developed. I just want to keep it. You know what I mean? And keep us in that mindset going all the way through. He strikes me
Right.
as that type of a coach. You know what I mean? Because he don't waver. I mean, Deuce dropped 18 points versus Portland and got a DNP the next day because Brunson was back. You know what I'm saying? Nothing even creeped in his mind to say, maybe I need to give him a little bit more time. Nope. Went straight back to the bench.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, Tibbs is steadfast in what he believes and what he does. And, it's worked for the Knicks, man. Even when you look at last season and the Knicks didn't make the playoffs and they were below 500, if things bounced right for the Knicks last year, they could have been 500 or better, injuries and stuff like that. But
Right.
you take the first season, you take last season, and you take this season, and the Knicks have a combined winning record since Tibbs has been the coach.
Right.
Right. I mean, and I don't know. I haven't looked at the first season that Randall and Barrett have been here. I don't remember what they were that season. I know they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
If you add that season in with Randall and Barrett, maybe it's not a winning record, or maybe it's somewhere around 500. But if
Was
you
that his first year here?
Randall, no, that wasn't.
Was that Tibbs' first?
No, that wasn't Tibbs' first year.
Oh, okay.
But just speaking of like Randall and Barrett from the time that they got here,
Okay.
and I'd have to look at the numbers.
Do you know what year it was, son? Was that the 1920?
The first year that Julius Randle got here, I think was 18-19.
The 18-19 was the 17-win season. Wasn't that before we drafted Barrett?
That was before we drafted Barrett. So we got
the next
Barrett
season, we was 21-45.
21-45.
And then Tibbs' first season, you're right, it was a 20-game difference, 41-31.
Right.
Yeah.
So, with Randall and Barrett, I mean, the Knicks might be close to about a 500 record with Randall and Barrett. And then if you really started with Tibbs, obviously they have a winning record. So, you know what I mean? All 3 of those guys, Mitchell Robinson too, have been part of building this team here.
Yeah. Over 500, son.
Over 500?
With Randall and Barrett.
Yeah.
Like.
So I mean, they've been the building blocks of this team here, man. RJ, Randall, Tibbs, Mitch. You know what I mean? So, when you people talk about Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau, giving players a certain amount of leeway.
Mm-hmm.
When you were here from the beginning and now you're winning basketball games, you know what I mean? You kind of earned that a little bit. Kind of earned it a little bit. So we'll see how far they can take it. Anyway, the Knicks play the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, 7:30 p.m. at Madison Square Garden. The game will be on MSG. Also League Pass if you gotta watch it on League Pass. And yeah, we'll be back on the post-game show, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can do the Losers Lounge right after the post-game show tonight. That's we're gonna try to get it done right after the post-game show. So I know people are liking the Losers Lounge.
Yeah, I hear.
People are liking it. People are liking it so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to watch, Tony did one last night. It's about 15, 16 minutes long, so you can go check it out. He did a Losers Lounge for the Denver Nuggets. We'll do a Losers Lounge tonight for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, no doubt. I like that confidence. I like that confidence.
Yeah, see that? I let it slip. I let it slip out there. I let it slip. Hopefully, we'll be doing a Losers Lounge for the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to get up out of here. 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock. The Queen's Court will be on, so make sure you check out the Queen's Court tonight at 6. Anything about it you want to let them know, Steph?
Yeah, we'll be, the usual last week, next week, as far as the games are concerned. But we're going to talk a bit more about R.J. Barrett and how he's been playing since the All-Star break, and basically how he's been playing as of late and how that bodes well for us going into the playoff if he continues to play this way. He's cut down on his three-point shooting. He's finishing better at the basket, taking less shots per game, really tightened up his offensive game. I think that's going to help the Knicks a lot. And just a correction, the Knicks are, I think, about 10 games under 500 in the Randall RJ era. But by next season, that'll be corrected.
That'll be corrected. Yeah, that'll be corrected. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out the Queen's Court tonight. Hopefully, after the post-game show, we'll be doing the Losers Lounge. I'm not trying to jinx us. All right, Knicks Worldwide said, don't jinx us. The Public Enemy said we're taking the Timberwolves lightly. I'm not. It's slip. Freudian slip.
Right.
But anyway, I'm out of here, folks. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim pass the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench.